I did that. I had.
Are we ready? All right, would you all please rise and join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, tonight is Monday, September 9th, 2019. This is the regularly scheduled town council meeting. All members of council are present. Welcome, everybody. Full group up here. Are there any comments or objections to the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll pass the consent calendar. I'd ask that communications A through I be incorporated into the minutes of this meeting. Brings us to public participation. Round one. Would anybody like to participate at this time? Seeing none, I will close the first public participation. We have one appointment. It's Patricia Panicia, 25 Easton Road, to the WMNR Commission. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask this council to approve the appointment of Patricia Panicia, Democrat of 25 Eastern Road, to the WMNR Commission for a term ending 3/23/20.
Motion by Ms. Martin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Aguilar. Discussion, Ms. Martin.
Patricia Panicia is the Monroe representative to the Southwest Regional Mental Health Board. She's lived in Monroe since 1978 and has served on the Charter Revision Commission, the Library Board, and the Historic District Commission. Ms. Panicia is looking forward to giving back to the community through service on the WMNR Commission. And this appointment fills a vacancy created by Mike Massaro. It says Massaro on my sheet. It's a misprint.
Mine says Massaro.
She's looking at the actual appointment.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor? Against, motion carries 9-0. Apologize for that annoying echoing. That's not right, but that's okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mrs. Panicia is here.
She is.
She's
Okay.
sworn in.
Welcome. If you want to come forward, the first selectman will swear you in.
Good thing since their meeting is tomorrow.
Do you solemnly swear, solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that you will faithfully discharge according to law your duties as a member of the WMNR Commission to the best of your abilities, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury? Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service. All right, we're going to move on to the action items. A is the Town Council Committee on Finance, Education, Health, and Public Safety. Mr. Rooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have not met since last council.
B.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Before we
Mr.
move
Bauer?
on,
Yes.
I do have some updates from the Commission on Aging's last meeting. Commission on Aging met with our new director, which was very beneficial. They were able to discuss what projects were ongoing, what projects had been discussed in the past but never really picked up. The Commission did raise some major concerns with current parking situation at the senior center, as tends to happen, especially in the fall. The parking has gotten to the point where seniors come to use the center and aren't able to use it because there's people parking there for the fields and things along those lines. The parking has been on something that's been on the capital list for a while, but they wanted to get an update, so they did kindly ask that I bring it to council to see if there could be any update as to when that might be a project they could expect to see come to fruition. Their other item is the cafe that they wanted to say that the Jenny's has been working decently as a filler, but they did want to continue the search for a permanent person in that cafe. So just wanted to bring that to the town's attention as well.
Great, thank you.
Question.
Sure, Mr. Rourke.
With regards to the parking for the senior center, it's primarily the weekend that's the problem, right?
No, it's during the week, during practices as well. In fact, during the Commission on Aging meeting, it had to start about 15 minutes late because everybody was in the commission was circling trying to find a spot.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Maurer. Moving on to B is planning and zoning, et cetera. Ms. LaBellis.
I have nothing on planning, and none of it was pertinent to the town. Park and Rec just met. Do you have anything, Mrs.?
Tonight, I think.
They're meeting tonight, because I thought, okay, so I thought it was 7, but it must not be. So we don't have anything.
All right, CLNA, Mr. Reed.
We did meet tonight, Mr. Chairman, and we will be going over our consensus coming up. Yeah, I'm tapping on it too.
All right,
So nothing to report.
thank you. Strategic planning, Mr. Formicello.
Our tentative date, which was scheduled for Thursday, was not noticed, so we will work on a new date soon.
EMS, Building Committee, Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, the contracts are completed. We are looking to set up a meeting, I believe, with LNA at this point to vet those contracts. So we will be speaking shortly, I'm sure. That's all I have at this point.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get to my written report, I just want to talk a little bit about the senior center. First, as I know, I believe Mr. Monroe will recall, the parking lot was included in the 5-year capital plan, I think for not the current fiscal year, but the next fiscal year as if nothing else, as a placeholder to ensure we did not lose our attention. Furthermore, I've been working closely with the town planner, inland wetlands engineering, as well as the senior center director to evaluate kind of the intersection of the parking situation with the field project at the park. As you'll recall, we had a field rebuild project that we determined was far more expensive than we had anticipated. I am now looking at that project with all those departments I had mentioned earlier to come up with potential solutions that would evaluate how we address the field issue, but also consider the parking at the same time. Because one thing that was not included in the original field scope was the presumption was that the existing parking would suffice, and I don't think that's correct at all. So I think that's where that stands, and I believe the senior center director, I know we discussed it, my understanding is that she informed the Commission on Aging that that was the plan, that the parking lot was going to be evaluated alongside the field issue, as well as the fact that the senior center expansion project, if you will, was part of the space needs assessment as well. These were kind of all coming in together. As far as the cafe, I know that, again, our director, Henna, has advised me that she would take a fresh look at other potential opportunities that might be out there to make sure that we haven't left a stone unturned. But at this point, I mean, it is what it is. Basically, we're trying to do something. I will say, though, that she's also reported that some of the demand for the meals that are being provided are less than we had hoped. So that certainly does not help us in terms of attracting a vendor when the demand is really not strong currently. But we are going to continue to do that and continue to find a more permanent solution. That said, I'll get to my written report. First, the state of Connecticut did approve all 3 applications for the Neighborhood Assistance Act, the Playground Foundation, the Conservation Commission, and the Community and Social Services Department. So as that program is laid out, there's a very tight window for businesses that could avail themselves of this tax credit between September 15th and October 1st to submit applications. All that information that's here is also posted up on our website, and it's also available on the state site. So those 3 agencies have been contacted as well and encouraged to ensure that any donors that they have had to date for their current tax year, or any prospective donors, that they contact them and make sure that they get their applications into the state directly. Regarding a follow-up on Route 110 in Wheeler, as we discussed at the last meeting, we had gotten approval from the property owner, as well as getting a permit from the state to do additional clearing on that intersection. That was in response to the newer incidents that involve southbound traffic on Wheeler Road, and to improve the sight line there. That work was done. And we were informed today by the DOT that they did go out there and perform another field inspection. I'm waiting for a kind of formal analysis, but my understanding is that the initial feedback was that they concurred that it was all driver error issues and not intersection design issues. However, I am awaiting a formal report from them. And last but not least, the Route 25 111 traffic study that's been underway for several years, worked through collaboration with Trumbull and Monroe, being managed by MetroCog. That study has been completed. The final report will be posted on the MetroCog website in the very near future, and we'll be posting links to our town webpage as well. And again, you'll recall that study really was just to identify design and engineering solutions. They're highly conceptual. Funding would have to be secured either through the state of Connecticut in terms of there being state roads, or the potential always exists with future development efforts to be able to have those types of development projects be informed by this study to how those improvements could possibly be incorporated. There is one project, it's in Trumbull. It's the area in front of the Chips restaurant that there's already a grant been secured through MetroCog to address that intersection. That was one of the areas that was identified by the study, and something that was already able to be pursued. But again, future projects would have to identify funding and have more detailed designs. But it's good that the project is now done. Did you guys not get, I just realized that these never went down, I'm sorry. The written reports are on their way down. And that's all I have.
Nice.
Just give everybody a moment to receive the written report before I move on.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm missing one.
Sorry. Yep.
I still want them down. We okay?
Yep.
Move on? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Moving on to the new business being, there being no unfinished business. Item A is a resolution regarding the 2019 Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Mr. Pellis.
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding 2019 Hazard Mitigation Plan update as prepared by MetroCog and move for its adoption. A resolution of the Town of Monroe adopting the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments, MetroCog, in parentheses, 2019 Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Motion to approve the resolution by Ms. LaPellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Formicella. Is there a motion to waive a reading of the resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. LaPellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mauer. Any discussion on the waiver motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 9-0. We have before us the resolution as printed. Any discussions regarding that, Mr. Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll just preface that, as I outlined in my cover memo, this is a FEMA required plan. If the town ever was to avail ourselves of FEMA assistance, whether it was pre or post disaster efforts, as we've done the last time the update was required, we worked regionally with MetroCog managing this process. And it's something that FEMA certainly supports in terms of being a regional effort. So while it is a multi-jurisdictional plan, FEMA does require that each individual municipality adopt it locally as well. And I kind of elaborated further in my memo. But if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. I also am happy to say that Mr. Patrick Carlton, who I think you're all familiar with, is having set up here one time in the past. He's also here from MetroCog and was intimately involved in the project and certainly answer any other questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Mr. Carlton, anything to add, or?
I think the first selectman did a good job. Just to reiterate, it's a multi-jurisdictional plan, but we look at every community differently. We look at their needs, what's been natural hazards in the past that have occurred. It's like I said, it's just an update for the 2014 plan. So with that, there wasn't any substantial changes, just some events that did happen between 2014 and 2019. But it really just lists proposed mitigation actions that the town could pursue. They're not required to pursue them. The one thing that I will say, the one caveat is local adoption is required for certain FEMA funding sources should the town ever require those in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor and against, motion carries 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Carlton, Mr. Kellogg. Moving on to new business. Item B is the resolution regarding Operation Fuel, Mr. Pellis.
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding the Operation Fuel Incorporated Memorandum of Understanding 2019-2020 and move for its adoption. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, First Selectman of the Town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the Town of Monroe the Memorandum of Understanding and any associated documents by and between Operation Fuel Incorporated for the Energy Assistance Program.
Motion by Mr. Pellis. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Rooney. For discussion, I will turn the floor over to Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and for this and the next two items, our director, Mrs. Hannah Lee, was present at LNA to discuss these, and LNA members didn't feel necessary to be here. We're here to be the council, but if you certainly have any follow-up questions, I'm happy to address them. These all, the next few things are in general, all things you've seen in the past. Operation Fuel is one that you know we use quite frequently as part of our energy assistance program, which does see several, few hundred applications a year, and a grant obviously we want to continue to avail ourselves of.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Moving on to C, resolution regarding SWCAA Caregiver Assistance Grant. Mr. Pellis?
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding fiscal year 2020 Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging, parentheses CAA Caregiver Assistance Award, and move for its adoption. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, First Selectman of the Town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the Town of Monroe the Older American Act Title III Award, fiscal year 2020 agreement, and any associated documents by and between the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging for the Caregiver Assistance Program.
Motion by Mr. Pellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mauer. Again, Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is, you've seen this in the past. This is the current fiscal year's grant award for this program, which is utilized to help offset some of our staff costs in providing caregiver assistance services in our social services and senior center.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Any further discussion, Mr. Mauer?
This was discussed, the Commission on Aging, and they are, of course, are in full support of this.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Against, motion carries 9-0. Our last item of business this evening is item D, is another SWCAA resolution, this one regarding a senior disabled and transportation award. Mr. Pellis.
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding fiscal year 2020 Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging Senior and Disabled Transportation Award, and move for its adoption. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, First Selectman of the Town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the Town of Monroe the Older American Act Titles III Award, fiscal year 2020 agreement, and any associated documents by and between the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging for the Senior and Disabled Transportation Program.
Motion by Mr. Pellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mauer. Again, Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you again. You're familiar with this grant. This is the grant that we utilize to provide transportation services from our senior center. The funds are primarily utilized to cover the cost of the part-time transportation coordinator.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Discussion, Mr. Mauer.
Again, this was discussed at the Commission on Aging. They are in full support of it. There was actually further discussion about transportation amongst seniors in town. And one of the ideas from the Commission on Aging is to hold a course there for any members on Uber, Lyft, things along those lines, to provide seniors with other options that this does not cover. So they are taking some steps to try to expand options for the seniors there as well.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And against, motion carries 9-0. That concludes our new business. We have second public participation. Seeing none, call for, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pellis, second. Second. Mr. Reed, all those in favor? Motion carries 9-0. Good night, everybody. Thank you.